I was backing into a parking space in the hospital's underground parking lot when a Range Rover cut me off and aggressively took the spot. I got out of my car, ready to give the driver a piece of my mind. But the driver of the Range Rover opened the passenger door and carefully helped out a beautiful pregnant woman. He turned to me with an apologetic look. "I'm so sorry. My girlfriend is pregnant, and she wasn't feeling well. I needed to get her in for a checkup." And the girlfriend he was talking about was none other than my dink wife, Emily Moore, who supposedly went abroad for further studies 6 months ago. When I stared in disbelief, my mind blank. My wife, a staunch supporter of the dink lifestyle, was now standing before me with a large baby bump. Unlike her usual slender and cold demeanor, Emily Moore was noticeably fuller than she was 6 months ago. Her face was softer, and she radiated a maternal glow. This was a side of Emily Moore I had never seen before. When she was with me, she always wore an aloof expression, as if even a glance in my direction was a favor. But now, Emily Moore leaned affectionately against the man beside her, the scene so harmonious and beautiful. 6 months ago, Emily Moore suddenly told me that her company was sending her abroad for a year of training. In the past 6 months, I had barely seen her. Every time I called, the conversations were short and rushed. When I tried to video call her, she always said her roommate was around, and it wasn't convenient. I was such a fool, blindly trusting Emily Moore. I felt a fire burning in my chest, the searing pain spreading through my limbs and throughout my entire body. If I hadn't been at the hospital today to drop off a sick friend, I don't know how much longer Emily Moore would have kept me in the dark. Our eyes met. After the initial surprise and a hint of guilt, Emily Moore quickly regained her composure. Trying to suppress the turmoil in my heart, I used every ounce of strength to maintain a calm facade. "Your girlfriend is beautiful," I said sincerely. The Range Rover driver's lips curled into a proud smile. Emily Moore frowned and suddenly said coldly, "What are you doing here?" Only then did the Range Rover driver notice the strange atmosphere between Emily Moore and me, looking at me and then at Emily Moore with a puzzled expression. I looked pointedly at the man beside Emily Moore. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" Emily Moore said nonchalantly, gesturing to the Range Rover driver, "Tom Baker." My heart skipped a beat. Tom Baker. The white moonlight in Emily Moore's heart that she could never attain. No wonder she broke her principles, she was pregnant for love. Looking back, it was all so ridiculous. Emily Moore had always claimed to be a staunch supporter of the dink lifestyle. It seemed it was just an excuse to brush me off. It wasn't that Emily Moore didn't want to have children, just not with me. My fingers twitched slightly at my side, my fists clenched tighter and tighter. Sensing my identity, Tom Baker gave Emily Moore a questioning look. Emily Moore remained silent. I smiled and nodded. "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm her husband, Chris Gardner." Silence fell. Tom Baker's face showed embarrassment and a hint of shame. "Chris Gardner, can't you just talk normally? What's with the sarcasm?" Seeing this, Emily Moore stepped forward unhappily, shielding Tom Baker behind her. I never expected Emily Moore to defend Tom Baker so openly. I chuckled and retorted, "What did I say wrong? Besides, don't you think you owe me an explanation? Go home first." "We'll talk when I'm done with the checkup," Emily Moore said impatiently, pulling Tom Baker towards the hospital. I returned home in a daze. As I entered the entryway, I saw the huge wedding photo hanging in the living room. In the photo, I was smiling, gazing affectionately at Emily Moore, who had a detached expression. In that instant, I felt incredibly ironic. I felt like I was the biggest joke in the world. I raised my arm and slammed my fist into the frame. The glass shattered, scattering shards everywhere. Bright red blood dripped from my knuckles to the floor, but I didn't seem to feel any pain. I sat blankly on the sofa, opened the bottom drawer of the coffee table, and took out a pack of cigarettes. Emily Moore didn't like the smell of smoke. Since we got married, I had rarely smoked. The pack in the drawer had been there for a long time. I lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and blew a smoke ring into the air. The taste of nicotine finally relaxed my tense nerves, and the knot in my chest seemed to dissipate a little. I slumped against the sofa. When Emily Moore returned, she was with Tom Baker. Tom Baker was carrying a bag, probably containing the test results and the doctor's prescription. He carefully supported Emily Moore, afraid she might trip over something. As soon as they opened the door, Tom Baker wrinkled his nose, frowned, and coughed dramatically. Emily Moore snatched the still-burning cigarette from my hand and stubbed it out in the ashtray. "Who told you to smoke in the house? Don't you know pregnant women can't be around secondhand smoke?" I didn't move or say anything. If it had been me in the past, I would have scrambled to my feet and apologized profusely. My silence infuriated Emily Moore, her chest heaving. Tom Baker quickly comforted her. "Don't get angry. Remember, you're not alone now." Hearing this, Emily Moore's anger subsided instantly. Tom Baker helped Emily Moore sit down on the sofa and opened the window to air out the smoke. He took out the medicine from the bag one by one, explaining the dosage and order in detail, still looking worried even after confirming that Emily Moore had remembered everything. "Okay, I've got it all. You can go home now," Emily Moore said softly. It was a gentleness I had never seen or felt before. Watching their affectionate behavior, I felt like I was the one who was superfluous. Suppressing the bitterness in my heart, I curled my lips into a mocking smile as I looked at Emily Moore and Tom Baker. "Why don't I just leave and give you two some space?" My words seemed to deeply offend Tom Baker, his face turning as red as a beet. Emily Moore glared at me as if I had committed some heinous crime. "Chris Gardner, can't you just talk without all the sarcasm? Tom has been taking care of me for the past 6 months. He's just worried about me. So, I should thank him, I suppose?" I looked at Emily Moore mockingly. Emily Moore's expression froze, and she looked away, avoiding my gaze. Clearing her throat, she turned to Tom Baker and said gently, "Don't mind him. You go home first, and we'll talk on the phone." She even made a phone gesture with her hand. Tom Baker reluctantly left, glancing back several times. I didn't miss the smirk on his lips and the obvious provocation in his eyes as he left. As soon as Tom Baker left, Emily Moore reverted to her familiar cold demeanor. "Chris Gardner, I hope you'll be polite to Tom in the future." 3. You want me to be polite to the guy who's cuckolding me? I looked at Emily Moore in disbelief. Unexpectedly, Emily Moore exploded like a cat with its fur on end, becoming extremely agitated, her voice sharp. "Tom is not as despicable as you make him out to be. It's not like that between us." I cast a mocking glance at her protruding belly and sneered, "Then how did it get here? Do you take me for a 3-year-old? It's because Tom has cancer, terminal. He doesn't have much time left. His only wish is to have a child, but he doesn't want a stranger to be the mother, so I wanted to help him," Emily Moore said, her eyes reddening, her voice choked with emotion. I could clearly feel the grief in Emily Moore's heart. I stared at Emily Moore for a long time. Slowly, I uttered the words, "Let's get a divorce." Hearing this, Emily Moore, who was immersed in sorrow, suddenly snapped back to her senses, her face full of anger. "Tom is dying. How can you be so cold-blooded? Don't you have any sympathy? I'm just lending him my womb. I haven't really betrayed you, have I? Do you have to be so petty and bring up divorce?" Emily Moore righteously berated my cold-bloodedness and pettiness. I almost laughed out loud. Seeing that I was unmoved, Emily Moore's eyes darted around, as if she had thought of something. Her expression showed a clear struggle, as if she were in a battle with herself. After a long moment, Emily Moore seemed to have made up her mind, gritting her teeth and closing her eyes. "Don't you like kids? How about this? After I give birth to this one, I'll have another one for you. Would that be okay?" I felt deeply saddened for myself. I like children. Everyone could see it, including Emily Moore. However, Emily Moore had told me before we got married that she was a staunch supporter of the dink lifestyle and would never have children. I love Emily Moore, so I agreed to be a dink couple with her. However, in the quiet of the night, I had often imagined what our child would look like, whether he or she would look like me or her. But I loved Emily more than children. In our 7-year marriage, I had given Emily Moore all my heart, but I couldn't get her to agree to have a child for me. But now, because of Tom Baker, Emily Moore not only broke the dink principle but was even using a child as a bargaining chip with me. My heart turned completely cold at that moment. "There's no need to force yourself," I said coldly. "Chris Gardner, don't be ungrateful. I've already agreed to have a child for you. What more do you want?" I just said it. "Let's get a divorce." I suddenly felt very bored, without even the desire to argue. "Fine, let's get divorced. Don't forget that you were the one who begged me to marry you back then. Don't come crawling back like a dog." For Emily Moore was right. I was indeed the one who begged Emily Moore to marry me. 7 years ago, Tom Baker left Emily Moore and went abroad. Emily Moore was heartbroken and jumped into the river, where I found her. As we spent time together, I fell in love with her. I helped her slowly emerge from the pain of heartbreak. Emily Moore lost her parents at a young age and was raised by her grandmother. Before her death, her grandmother entrusted her to me. Until today, even though I knew she could never let go of that man in her heart, I had sincerely wanted to spend my life with Emily Moore. For 7 years, I had tried to make Emily Moore fall in love with me. But today, I realized that some things can't be achieved through effort. Emily Moore was enraged and stood up to leave. Just then, I suddenly felt a fishy sweetness rising in my throat. I opened my mouth, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. "What's wrong?" Emily Moore's voice was still cold. But I didn't miss the flash of worry in her eyes. It was ironic that this was the first time Emily Moore had shown concern for me. She walked over to me, wanting to help me up, but the moment her hand touched mine, I reflexively pushed it away as if it were something dirty. "I'm fine." Both Emily Moore and I were stunned at that moment. Emily Moore's expression was complicated, with more embarrassment than awkwardness. I myself didn't expect my reaction to be so strong. I wiped my mouth. After spitting out that mouthful of blood, the feeling of oppression in my chest seemed to have been released as well. I felt refreshed all over. Emily Moore sarcastically said, "That's a shame." Emily Moore left. I didn't need to guess that she must have gone to find Tom Baker. After thinking it over, I picked up my phone and dialed that familiar number. The phone rang 3 times before it was answered, and a low, husky male voice said, "Have you made up your mind?" "I have," I said, my voice soft but determined. "Humph. Look at you, so pathetic. To give up being the younger gardener's son for a woman who doesn't even love you." My brother's tone was obviously disappointed. Actually, my brother was right. I was indeed pathetic. 7 years ago, I broke with my family and even gave up being the younger gardener's son just to be with Emily Moore. When I left home, my brother predicted that I would regret it. He said that if I ever regretted it, I could call him anytime. What did I say back then? I confidently told him that day would never come. Now, I had been slapped in the face. Everything was my own fault. I thought my brother would continue to mock me, and I was prepared for it, but he didn't. My brother just told me that someone would come to pick me up and that I should get ready. Looking around, almost everything in the house had been bought for Emily Moore. I didn't have many personal belongings. I packed all my things, but they didn't even fill one suitcase. 5 weeks has passed since I first brought up the divorce. But Emily Moore still hadn't signed the divorce papers. I figured even if she was busy, she could find the time to sign. When I called her, she always made excuses to postpone it. I was actually a little curious. Logically, she should be happy that I was the one who brought up the divorce, fulfilling her wish. I thought she would immediately sign and stamp the papers as soon as I presented them to her. Emily Moore was dragging her feet, but I wasn't going to wait any longer. I was about to go look for Emily Moore when Tom Baker unexpectedly came to find me first. I sat across from Tom Baker in a coffee shop. Tom Baker sat opposite me with a smile, without the slightest hint of guilt or fear that a homewrecker would have when meeting the husband. I knew that Tom Baker was so calm and collected because Emily Moore had given him enough confidence. Tom Baker gave off an impression of being gentle, refined, calm, and confident in every move he made. Just like the first time we met, it was clearly his fault, but it was impossible to fault him for it. No wonder Emily Moore could never forget him. I'm sorry. Because of me, you and Emily Moore had a falling out. Finally, Tom Baker broke the silence. He said he was sorry, but the corners of his lips were slightly raised, and his smiling eyes revealed a hint of provocation. I didn't say anything, just stared at him, quietly waiting for him to continue. Tom Baker didn't mind and continued, but that wasn't my intention. You've probably heard that I have cancer, and I don't have much time left. I just want to leave a child of my own in this world before I go. Tom Baker's expression remained calm and composed as he spoke. When he reached for his coffee, Tom Baker unintentionally revealed his Vacheron Constantin watch. At that moment, my hand on my knee suddenly tightened. I was very familiar with that watch. I remembered that not long ago, I had accidentally found a shopping receipt in Emily Moore's pocket. I thought it was a birthday gift she was going to give me, and I had been looking forward to it. But I didn't expect it to be a gift she had prepared for Tom Baker. Seeing that my gaze was fixed on his wrist, Tom Baker's lips curled up, and the smugness in his eyes was almost impossible to hide. And then? What exactly do you want to say to me? I raised an eyebrow and asked. I'm grateful for Emily Moore's help. Believe it or not, Emily Moore and I never wanted to hurt you, and I never wanted to ruin your marriage with Emily Moore. Ha! You give me such a big green hat and say you didn't want to hurt me? Don't you think your words are ridiculous? My sarcasm caused Tom Baker's expression to change drastically. Also, don't you think you're very selfish? You know you don't have much time left, but you still want Emily Moore to have a child for you? Have you considered Emily Moore and the child? I saw Tom Baker suddenly look as if he had suffered a great blow, all the color draining from his face. The composure and calmness from before had completely disappeared, and he looked weak and vulnerable. I. Tom Baker said, his face pale, unable to utter a word. Chris Gardner, why don't you take it out on me instead? What kind of man bullies a sick person? Suddenly, a shrill female voice came from behind me. It was Emily Moore. Emily Moore worriedly supported Tom Baker, who was staggering and looked as if he could faint at any moment. Emily Moore, he's right. I'm too selfish. I'm sorry. Tom Baker lowered his head, deeply remorseful. However, unnoticed, I clearly saw the corners of his lips slightly raised, the smugness in his eyes almost impossible to hide. I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. I didn't know when Emily Moore had appeared. But Tom Baker had probably noticed Emily Moore's presence long ago and was just pretending to be pitiful. Everything today was probably orchestrated by him, just to deepen the conflict between Emily Moore and me. I guessed that Emily Moore's delay in signing the divorce papers must have made Tom Baker feel insecure. Chris Gardner, let me tell you, you've crossed the line. I'm willing to have a child for Tom Baker. Don't try to stir up trouble and sow discord. Emily Moore's cheeks were flushed red, she was furious. I didn't bother to explain. You can never wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Similarly, once someone has a deep prejudice against you, any explanation is futile. You want a divorce, don't you? Emily Moore said, taking out a pen and quickly signing her name. Here you go. A useless bum who doesn't even have a decent job. I'd like to see how you're going to support yourself after you leave me. She threw the signed divorce papers in my face. The sharp edges of the paper cut my cheek, leaving a blood streak. But the pain on my face was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. Emily Moore's words were like a barbed dagger, cutting deeply into my heart, instantly turning it into a bloody mess. Let's go. Emily Moore pulled Tom Baker and walked out. Ignoring the smugness and provocation on Tom Baker's face, I expressionlessly picked up the signed divorce papers. Just now, my brother had sent me a message telling me that the person picking me up had arrived. When I went outside, I saw the black Bentley parked on the side of the road. Seeing me approach, the passenger door of the Bentley opened, and Will Davis, my brother's assistant, got out and respectfully opened the car door for me. Emily Moore and Tom Baker stared in shock. It wasn't until the car drove past them that Emily Moore seemed to react and rushed forward to try to catch up. I knew she must have recognized Will Davis. But all that was left for her was the exhaust fumes in the air. Halt all cooperation with Omnitech, I said softly, turning away from the rearview mirror. Now that I had chosen to return to the Gardner family, I had to take over the company's business. Will Davis was sent by my brother to help me. Terminating cooperation with Omnitech was the first decision I made after returning. Yes, sir, Will Davis nodded. Omnitech was left by Emily Moore's grandmother. It was just an inconspicuous little company back then. When Emily Moore took over, Omnitech was heavily in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy. Although I had left the Gardner family, I still had connections. I secretly helped Emily Moore get through various channels and accompanied her as she slowly grew the company to its current size. Emily Moore was taking care of her seriously ill grandmother while working like crazy. Her physical condition was very poor during that time, and she fainted and was hospitalized several times. My heart ached for her, so after the company stabilized, I offered to stay home and be a stay-at-home dad. Under my careful care, Emily Moore's physical condition slowly improved. However, in Emily Moore's eyes, I was just an idle, useless freeloader who was supported by her. My sacrifice seemed to have only moved myself. I didn't expect Emily Moore to look down on me from the bottom of her heart. But it didn't matter. I could give in the past, and I could take it all back now. 7. The Gardner Corporation terminated all cooperation with Omnitech, which was a major blow to Omnitech. However, this was just the beginning. All those who could do business were shrewd people. The Gardner Corporation was the leader in Riverdale, and many people were paying attention to its movements. Therefore, many companies that followed in the footsteps of the Gardner Corporation followed suit and canceled their cooperation with Omnitech. In just 1 month, Omnitech's situation became dire, and its profits plummeted. However, the company was not only unstable externally but also internally. Many employees realized that something was wrong and chose to resign. For a time, Omnitech was in trouble both internally and externally, and Emily Moore was overwhelmed. I heard that Emily Moore had a miscarriage because of this and stayed in the hospital for half a month. During that time, Emily Moore called me. I guessed she wanted to ask me if I knew Will Davis, since she had clearly seen him pick me up that day. But I didn't answer and blacklisted all her contact information. Since returning to the Gardner Corporation, I had put all my energy into familiarizing myself with the company's business. With Will Davis's assistance, I got the hang of it quickly. On the day I officially took over the company's business and was appointed vice president of the Gardner Corporation, my brother insisted on throwing me a celebration party so that everyone would know that the younger Gardner's son had returned. I had refused, not wanting to make such a big fuss, but I couldn't resist my brother's insistence. On the day of the party, I didn't expect Emily Moore and Tom Baker to come too. So many people were trying to squeeze in to attend the Gardner Corporation's party. Anyone who could come was definitely a big shot. Emily Moore must have wanted to take the opportunity to find a glimmer of hope for Omnitech. But Emily Moore and Tom Baker probably didn't have invitations and were stopped outside the hotel. The atmosphere between the two was tense, and they were blaming each other. "Didn't you say your friend could get an invitation?" Emily Moore complained. Tom Baker's expression was also unpleasant. "That's what my friend told me." "Then where is it now? Where's the invitation?" I've never been so embarrassed in my life being stopped at the door. Emily Moore looked displeased, her voice sharp. "There's no use yelling at me. Who knew that friend would be so unreliable?" Tom Baker no longer suppressed his anger. Just then, Emily Moore looked up and saw me about to enter the hotel. "What are you doing here?" Emily Moore said, while Tom Baker also looked at me warily. "Is it any of your business?" I sneered and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, Emily Moore suddenly strode forward and grabbed my suit sleeve. "Chris Gardner, you stop right there. Do you know the assistant to the president of the Gardner Corporation, William Will Davis?" Although it was a question, Emily Moore had a determined expression on her face. "So what?" I still retorted with a question. Emily Moore said to me in a commanding tone, "Have William Will Davis set up a meeting for me to meet the younger Gardner's son." I couldn't help but sneer. Emily Moore was as self-righteous as ever. At this time, the reception staff who had been standing nearby stepped forward and asked me respectfully, "Are these two your friends?" Looking at Emily Moore's expectant face, I said flatly, "I don't know them." My denial instantly disappointed Emily Moore. I forcefully pulled my suit sleeve back from Emily Moore and then took off my jacket and threw it to the receptionist. "It's dirty. Throw it away for me." As soon as I finished speaking, I saw Emily Moore's face turn blood red as she angrily shouted, "Chris Gardner, what do you mean by that?" But I ignored Emily Moore and Tom Baker and walked straight into the hotel. I heard that after I entered the hotel, Emily Moore tried to force her way in but was kicked out by the security guards at the door. "He doesn't have an invitation either. Why can he go in?" Emily Moore questioned, pointing at my back like a madwoman. "He's the younger Gardner's son, the host of today's party. Why do you think he can go in?" The security guard said impatiently. "He's the younger Gardner's son?" Emily Moore and Tom Baker's expressions changed simultaneously, shocked. Everyone who came today was a prominent figure in Riverdale, and many people knew Emily Moore. Emily Moore and Tom Baker had clearly become the focus of attention for everyone passing by. Emily Moore was ashamed and angry. I don't know what Tom Baker said, but the two of them started arguing in the street. Tom Baker left Emily Moore alone and left first. Emily Moore had come in Tom Baker's car, and it wasn't easy to get a cab here. Emily Moore stood in the cold wind for half an hour with a big belly before she managed to get a cab home. All I can say is, serves her right. In our 7 years of marriage, I had never left Emily Moore alone, no matter what the situation. But she threw away the person who was wholeheartedly good to her. Now Emily Moore should taste what it's like to be treated coldly. Although Emily Moore knew my identity, I knew that with her pride, she would never bow her head to me. She was always used to being high and mighty in front of me. Moreover, because of my secret help all along, Emily Moore had always thought that Omnitech was successful today entirely because of her own abilities. On the day Omnitech declared bankruptcy, I actually saw Emily Moore downstairs in the company. Emily Moore's cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were dazed. "Have you been drinking? Did you forget you're pregnant?" I frowned, feeling sorry for the child in her womb having such an irresponsible mother. "Omnitech is bankrupt. You must be happy now," Emily Moore said with a sneer. I didn't say anything. Emily Moore didn't seem to care and continued, as if talking to herself, "I know you did it, Chris Gardner. You're so cruel. You know how much I've put into Omnitech over the years. How could you bring it down?" As she spoke, her eyes flashed with intense hatred. "You don't think Omnitech is where it is today solely because of your own abilities, do you?" I scoffed. "What do you mean?" Emily Moore looked at me, puzzled. "If I hadn't secretly used my connections to help you, would Omnitech be where it is today? I simply took back what I once gave you. As for what happened after that, it has nothing to do with me." I looked at Emily Moore mockingly. The color drained from Emily Moore's face instantly. For a moment, she seemed unable to accept this truth. But I'm no selfless saint. Now that we're divorced, I'm not going to do good deeds anonymously. Emily, do you know how worried I've been about you? It's dangerous for you to run off alone, you know? Tom Baker's anxious and slightly reproachful voice came from behind me. Tom Baker was breathing slightly, probably from running. His rosy complexion didn't make him look like a terminal cancer patient. "Don't touch me." To everyone's surprise, the moment Tom Baker's hand touched Emily Moore, her expression changed instantly. Tom Baker's face darkened. He glanced at me standing to the side, lowered his voice, and said, suppressing his anger, "Emily, don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene." "Get lost. Get out of here. You liar." Emily Moore suddenly roared hysterically. I was completely bewildered. What was going on? What were these two up to? I thought Emily Moore and Tom Baker were just having a lover's spat, but now it seemed there was some major conflict between them. However, I didn't want to get involved in their affairs and decided to leave. Seeing that I had witnessed this embarrassing scene, Tom Baker couldn't save face. He let go of Emily Moore and pointed at me mockingly. "What? Now that you know he's the younger gardener's son, you regret it?" "Yes, that's right, I regret it," Emily Moore admitted without hesitation. Tom Baker's face turned extremely ugly. "Then I'll see if he still wants you," Tom Baker said before storming off. Just as I was completely confused, Emily Moore took the initiative to clear things up for me. It turned out that Emily Moore had been deceived by Tom Baker. He didn't have stomach cancer at all, just mild gastritis. Tom Baker had bribed a doctor to give him a fake medical report. He tricked Emily Moore into having a child for him solely for the purpose of obtaining umbilical cord blood. That's right, Tom Baker was not only married, but also had a 4-year-old son with leukemia. His son had been diagnosed with leukemia, and the doctor suggested that he and his wife have another child. However, his wife had experienced dystocia during childbirth years ago and could no longer conceive. It was at this time that he happened to meet Emily Moore, who was on a business trip. Emily Moore naively believed Tom Baker's words and willingly underwent IVF for him. Emily Moore, who had been kept in the dark the entire time, was worried about the company's affairs and Tom Baker's health. If she hadn't overheard Tom Baker's conversation with his wife, she probably would have been deceived forever. After the truth was revealed, Tom Baker still tried to deceive her with sweet words, but Emily Moore wasn't stupid. The two had a fierce argument. "Chris, I'm sorry. Now I know that only you are truly sincere to me," Emily Moore said, her voice choked with sobs and filled with regret. If it had been in the past, I would have felt sorry even if Emily Moore just frowned, let alone cried. But now, facing the tearful Emily Moore, my heart was surprisingly calm. "Are you done? If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." My coldness caught Emily Moore off guard, and tears welled up again. "You promised Grandma you'd take care of me for the rest of my life. How can you go back on your word?" Emily Moore questioned angrily. "But weren't you the one who cheated first?" "You lied to me first," I said, enunciating each word clearly. Emily Moore even had the nerve to mention Grandma. If it weren't for the kindness Grandma had shown me before her death, I wouldn't even be standing here wasting my breath on her. "I was wrong, I was really wrong, Chris. Can we get back together?" Emily Moore grabbed my hand tightly, begging bitterly. I sneered coldly. "Emily, why do you think I would forgive you? And why do you think I would help you raise a bastard? I'll have the child aborted right now. Would that be okay?" A look of madness flashed in Emily Moore's eyes. "You're crazy." I shook off Emily Moore and quickly left. She was already 8 months pregnant and was talking about getting an abortion? I felt sorry again for the child in her womb, having such a father with impure motives and such an irresponsible mother. However, I didn't expect to receive a call from the hospital a few days later. The person on the other end of the phone asked if I was Emily Moore's guardian, saying that Emily Moore had just had an accident with severe bleeding and was in critical condition. On the way to the hospital, I had someone find out about Emily Moore's situation. It turned out that Emily Moore really planned to have an abortion after going back. But how could Tom Baker agree? He had been eagerly waiting for the child to be born. He had been closely monitoring Emily Moore's every move. When he found out that Emily Moore had secretly gone to the hospital alone for an abortion, Tom Baker was furious. The two had another fierce argument. During the argument, Tom Baker accidentally pushed Emily Moore down the stairs. Emily Moore fell to the ground, and the blood beneath her soaked her white dress. Someone called the police. Tom Baker was taken away by the police, and Emily Moore was rushed to the emergency room. Previously, I was Emily Moore's emergency contact on her phone. Maybe she had forgotten, but she never changed it after the divorce, so the hospital called me. Emily Moore had no relatives in this world. As her former husband, I couldn't ignore her. Due to excessive blood loss, the child ultimately could not be saved. Emily Moore was in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights before finally waking up slowly. However, what awaited her was not only the pain of losing her child, but also an unexpected piece of bad news. Because Emily Moore hit the back of her head when she fell down the stairs, doctors found a tumor in her brain in addition to the blood clots when they examined her. The pathology report results showed that it was a malignant tumor, diagnosed at a late stage. According to Emily Moore's current situation, she probably only had 6 months left to live. Emily Moore's hand trembled slightly as she held the report. Her face was as pale as paper, and her eyes were numb and lifeless. At that moment, Emily Moore must have felt like her heart had died. Tears streamed down Emily Moore's cheeks unconsciously. Slowly, the initial silence turned into extremely suppressed sobbing. After an unknown amount of time, Emily Moore stopped crying. "Ha! Retribution. You must be very happy, right? Even God is standing up for you." Emily Moore forced a self-deprecating smile. Looking at Emily Moore in such a miserable state, I didn't know how to feel. Comfort her? I didn't seem to be able to. Thinking about what Emily Moore had done to me, I couldn't completely let go. But to say I felt happy about it didn't seem right either. Even if a stranger got cancer, I would sigh a few times, let alone someone I had shared a bed with for 7 years. You're overthinking it. I don't hate you. Hearing this, the light in Emily Moore's eyes, which had just been dim, suddenly flickered, but my next words made that light disappear quickly. Love and hate, there's only hate where there was love. If there's no love, naturally there's no hate. Emily Moore shook her head, seemingly in disbelief. You used to love me so much. I don't believe you could stop loving me so quickly. You said it yourself, that was in the past. I'm also a person with flesh and blood. I also feel sadness and pain. That's right, I was deeply in love with you, but that love gradually dissipated each time you hurt me. Emily Moore, we can never go back to the past. No one will wait for you in the same place forever. In an instant, Emily Moore's face turned as white as snow. I had already done everything I could for Emily Moore. Now, all I could do was hire a good caregiver for her. I heard that after Emily Moore was discharged from the hospital, she actually signed a letter of understanding with Tom Baker's family. This was unexpected by everyone. After all, something like that had happened. Emily Moore almost lost her life and her child. Just when everyone thought that Emily Moore loved Tom Baker deeply and madly, something shocking and unexpected happened. That was the day Tom Baker was released from the detention center. Emily Moore drove her car and stepped on the gas pedal, aiming directly at Tom Baker. Tom Baker was thrown into the air and then fell heavily to the ground. Tom Baker spat blood and died before the ambulance arrived. And Emily Moore, who hit him, didn't fare much better. The car crashed straight into a concrete pillar on the side of the road, and she died on the spot. It turned out that pregnancy hormones could not only induce cancer, but also stimulate the rapid development of tumor cells. Emily Moore felt that if she hadn't insisted on having a child for Tom Baker, who had stomach cancer, she might have been fine, and her life wouldn't have started counting down. However, there were no what-ifs in this world. What Emily Moore couldn't let go of the most was that Tom Baker had deceived her. Therefore, Emily Moore pretended to forgive Tom Baker out of hatred, but in reality, she had long planned to die with him. Hearing the news of Emily Moore's death, all that was left in my heart was a sigh. Everything has a cause and an effect. Emily Moore's current situation was all her own doing. Tom Baker did deceive her, but if she hadn't been restless, how could she have been so easily deceived? So, in the end,